Today, I am going to give you a deeper understanding of what exactly this second round of PPP means, okay? So now, and let's just kind of get to it. And I want to reference to you and where you look for these rules. Let's say if you really want to study this, making sure that Ying is properly telling you everything right. And then this is the 82 pages of the interim final rule for the PPP amendment to the first round of PPP. So that's 82 pages. And then you also have this 3-pager SBA guidelines to tell the lender to fund, to work with minority, underserved, veterans, and women-owned businesses. Okay, so this is another one that they, that's what SBA put on as a guideline, and to have the lender do the right thing, basically. Then there is another 42 pages coming on for the PPP second draw. Well, some people call that second PPP, but right now in this final interim final rule, they call that second draw, first draw and second draw. And in this new bill, the first draw doesn't mean the one you already got. The first draw means the people who does the PPP application getting the loan the first time. The second draw means the people who already got the first time PPP last year now is asking for repeat. So there is 2 draws in there, first draw and the second draw. So this is maybe a very huge confusion out there before this webinar. And people think that first draw means the first time. Well, I already got my first draw. No, you didn't have the first draw. You are going straight to the second draw if you already have your first PPP under CARES Act in 2020. Okay. Now, I also, before I leave this website I am pulling up for you, I want you to get familiar with 2 sets of NAICS codes. And this is North America, what do you call that? NAICS code, Sector 72, folks, that relevant to the hotel and the food services. Those folks on the second draw, or if it is the first draw, you would do 3.5 of your monthly average payroll, not 2.5, so you get more. Okay. Then there is another NAICS code starting with 511. These are newspaper publishers. So I immediately think of people like Business Records here in Des Moines. And then our other small, like a Moon Time in Minnesota, those are newly mentioned PPP loan recipients. They had a special rules for them, special more advantage rules for them. So now let's just look at my slides now, so we can go with the flow I designed here. Okay, so PPP IFR, interim final rule. And this is very English. I don't know what that means. Just sound like it is a final rule, but it is not so final. It is a little bit on the wishy-washy side. So it's called the interim final rule. That's the Chinglish interpretation, however you want to understand it. So I'm going to quickly pass the speaker information. I know some of you are new, and just know that I am not a stranger in this field. I have been practicing for 20 some years, and I have my seniority already labeled, even though I look like 20 years old. I'm just kidding. Here, I'm on the National Taxpayer Advocacy Panel. It's a federal organization which provide inputs to IRS, making IRS a better agency for all of us, right? So I'm on that panel, and that is a credential you earn, and it is not given. It is something that you qualifies to. And then, of course, my book, you can check on Amazon, Appointment with Ying at 8 a.m., teach you how to do startup business. I had a gentleman called me, said that he just finished my book, and he just totally believed that by reading the book, he already knew how much opportunities is out there to do business. So hopefully you will say the same. And no responsibility disclaimer is so important. And please take our advice with your very good research. That's why I showed you those pages of interim final rules. And really check with us if you are about to make a big decision based on what I said today here. And better yet, pick up the phone and check with us, right? And quickly going through the stimulus check, there's not much to mention. And right now, today's webinar, I just really want to focus on PPP, but you should, if your individual have AGI has total income under 75,000, a married couple and with kids have income less than 150,000, you should already have that $600 per person in your bank account. And I know that there's a huge problem went on with TurboTax, and a lot of the people who use TurboTax to file taxes, and somehow their money went up to TurboTax. So check on that for yourself. And our firm don't have this kind of mistake. We're not as big as TurboTax, so our staff, our clients did receive their money. And so that is something you want to make sure you should already gotten it. If not, there's many reasons. So I listed here, and if you move, do a form 8822. And if you don't know where your payment gonna be, or you just got divorced, and then you might want to check out to see whether the money went to the ex-spouse, and they are using your 2019 tax return to do that $600. So it's very likely you already moved, or your bank is already closed, or you already got divorced, or you got a new baby, so that baby didn't get it. So all of these can be resolved. You're not losing it, and it's just going to take time to get it. Okay. And when you file your 2020 tax return, if you didn't get it, you will get it. Unemployment benefit, really quickly. If you apply for unemployment benefit right now, you get $300 more per week all the way to March 15th. So if you have never ever applied for unemployment and the thinking is not worth it, maybe change your mind. And this is a means for the government to help you, and don't carry your pride and just apply. Okay, if you are not working, don't have income, unemployment benefit is a default. You should apply. EIDL loan, and that is open till the end of this year, folks. So you should apply. Okay, and it's open. And if you got loan but you didn't sign off, that portal is still there, and you can go back to reactivate that and get your money. And someone was asking me that, why do I get it? Because I have to pay it back. And my idea is, you know how this whole thing changes. And from the CARES Act back in March all the way to now, there's so many changes. And it used to be, even for PPP forgiveness process, now what we know, it's getting easier and easier. But when we applied for it, it was so hard, right? So I would say that because of the pandemic is not getting any better, it's actually getting really bad out there. If you have your EIDL loan, just take the money and use it accordingly. You might need it. When you really needed it at that moment, you may not have it. And maybe we can't print money anymore as a country. So those EIDL loan will come handy. So I would encourage you to apply. If you ever borrow money from your mom, from your sister, brothers, and from your friend, you should borrow from SBA. Okay, they are your best lender, better than anybody, better than any bank. Okay, So now let's just look at Paycheck Protection Program. And like I told you, this 82 pages interim final rule covers the PPP amendment. So it made changes to the existing PPP program. So remember, the existing PPP program closed on August 8, 2020. So that after that closed, no more PPP, right? So this amendment came out, and on June 6th, Wednesday night, says that it open now all the way to the end of March. Okay, so the 42 pages interim rule is related to the second draw. The second draw is specifically mean for those who already got a PPP back before August last year. Now you qualified to do another round of draw. So they call that second draw. All right. So having made that clear, and then let's go take a look a little bit more details. And some folks says that, well, Ying, what's the point? Because I don't really care to read it. You just tell me what I need to do and I go do it. So this is my way to tell you, because when you go to some small financial institution, and too many times my client would come back and tell me that the person they talk to at the bank doesn't even know what they're talking about. They have not heard the wind of second draw yet. They didn't know PPP changed. So, it takes so much of education it's like pouring the rain, and you need to get them wet. They know it's raining. So now your job is to bring that knowledge. Even if you didn't read it, it's okay. And you can tell the bank or the banker saying you heard of something and here is what it is, and you like them to help you, and you want to be their first person to be submitted for the second draw of PPP. Okay, so now everyone asked me, when is it open so I can apply? I did a Tuesday webinar last week, which is a do-it-yourself PPP2, right? So now I changed that terminology from PPP2 to second draw PPP, because that's the term they use right now, to not confuse the legislatures, to not confuse the lawmakers, and we just use the second draw, okay? And here, the PPP will reopen the week of January 11, 2021, which is Monday, which is 2 days later, okay? And it will open, that means SBA is ready to take application. So now it is us need to submit the application. Cannot be submitted directly to SBA because that's just not how they designed this whole system. They ask us to go to the lender. So the lender, the SBA, in their interim final rule, they give a term called community financial institutions. And I don't know what that means. And I was searching up and down trying to tell you today, and what is community financial institutions, okay? Because they are open first. So the second draw of PPP loan starts on January the 13th, which means the folks who got PPP back in 2020, the second draw happens on January the 13th, but it's only happen with community financial institutions, and they don't even know when they will give that to the big banks to open. So right now, we're talking about small banks, small credit unions, local banks. So now let me give you the definition, because I think you are like me, want to know, what do you mean by community financial institution? Then you're going to give me a name saying that, well, what about this bank? Well, maybe. And let me tell you how to figure out whether they are community financial institutes. And the definition I found, okay, and I checked on Wikipedia and there isn't any, so I went into the banking commissioner national, I forgot the full name, but it is authorized to give that definition. So the definition is the community financial institution means a member, you can imagine a company, the deposits of which is insured under Federal Deposit Insurance Act, FDIC. And you know that one, right? So if it is insured, means that you put $250,000 in one bank. So if the bank go belly up and they are insured, and you still get your money back. So that's why any bank who takes deposit, they're probably a community financial institute because they are banks. So credit union takes deposit. So I'm sure they are insured. So, first of all, they have to be a depository institution. Secondarily, and they are asset, the average total asset on the day we are talking, say today, it need to be less than $1 billion. So I went on internet. I was looking for the bank's total asset. So I want to kind of define that for you. So here, so what I found is JP Morgan Chase Bank don't qualify. They got the highest trillion, 5 trillion, I think, in the asset. Bank of America out, Wells Fargo out, Citibank too much money, US Bank had, if I remember right, was over 2 billion. And so then again, they don't qualify. So now it's kind of leaving us a general consensus that, okay, I know which bank now. I'm just going to go to that community bank and I have next corner and, this little bank, and I know that is owned by a private person. So those are the banks can supply your application on Monday. Okay, so this is what I want to get to you. And you need to know what bank's doing that. So in our firm, we have done those application for the 2020 CARES Act PPP amount for quite a bit of businesses. So those businesses that we did, and we go back to that bank again, if that bank is a community financial institution. But if they are Wells Fargo and a US bank, we know that it's not gonna work. And then I also want you to understand my worries related to this second draw of PPP, because I know the history. I come from the first PPP got announced in March, and how people didn't really get it, how the money went away so fast and so furious, and there is no small business I know other than two. We have 10,000 clients here. Other than two, no small businesses was funded. The money was gone. So I want you to understand the magnitude of this funding. I know billions means very little to us. And we don't know what billion means. Billion means a lot of money, but 300 billion versus 600 billion makes no difference for me because I don't understand the magnitude and what that amounted to. So let me just give you the number for the CARES Act PPP that ran away so fast. That's 342 billion. And right now, for the second draw of PPP we are talking about today is only 248 billion, 284 billion. No, maybe I forgot. Let's say 284 billion. Since 248 makes no difference to me with 284 anyway. But it makes difference in numbers. What we are thinking about, the first round of PPP funded 342 billion and is gone, right? Then then Congress enacted more money. And so we got that all the way to August 8th and closed the first round of CARES Act PPP. So with that, I want to say to everyone who is out there listening to me, and take that matter to your own hand and figure out which bank you are applied PPP original with, and now come back and get your second PPP in right away. So now those community financial institutions are small banks, as I have explained to you. And if you did your first one with large banks, then time to rethink. Do you want to wait and risking the chances of diminishing that dollar so you don't get it? Or you want to take your case and to the small banks say, hey, please help. So that's your charge. And I also want to tell you that every bank is running the application differently, even though it is made simpler. It is the interim final rules and had made it simple. But the banks need to make sure that you are eligible. So they would ask for more information than what the interim final rule is saying. And our firm, we already processed one today, okay, with an online community financial institution. And when we gone through the online, it feels like the first round of PPP anyway. Ask for everything. Ask for from sales to government report and from unemployment report all the way to your sales tax submission. So everything they ask. So it is not as easy as what the interim rule was suggesting, because the financial institution also have the fiduciary duty to do this right. So again, and what come to you is you need to know what they want, you need to know what they're asking, and go home, get that prepared. And if you never really had accounting done and you didn't do the first PPP, it's because your accounting sucks and you don't know what to do, and you also don't want to spend any money on that, then this is another opportunity. Don't repeat your mistake. I always tell folks that in this kind of crisis, the small business can really be flexible, can really take advantage whatever is out there, are the folks who does the business properly. If they have always had accounting done, they don't have any issue. If they had always been flexible, the owners always look out to see what is the next step. Even if they're running restaurant, they would run it successfully. So it is really about the spirit of entrepreneurship, right? It is not just the rules, hard and easy, and the financial institution could come back and to give you harder rules than what we are anticipating. But to say that you need to get prepared, right? So now, remember we talked about this. This new bill came out. Inside of this bill, there are 82 pages on the first draw of PPP eligibility. What is the first draw? First draw means the people who have never got PPP in the past, this is the first time they're doing it. So that they call that first draw. Then you also have what they call the second draw. Second draws are the PPPers. You got funded the first time last year, and this is your second draw. So essentially, the small businesses or businesses in general are split into two large groups, right? You either belong to first draw or you belong to second draw. Now, let's look at the eligibility for the first drawer, okay? The people who had not applied for PPP, so this is the good news. The business was in operation on February the 15th and come with one of the following groups. Means that if you are in business, you didn't do the first draw, because the first draw, they were asking all kind of things from 2019, right? So maybe you're a new business when the pandemic hit and you were sitting there goes, oh boy, I don't qualify for this. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, you qualify now. Okay, so don't shy away from PPP. Come back and look at this first draw eligibility for yourself. So you must have that business started before February the 15th. So how do you prove that? Your sales deposit and your payroll record, or your incorporation certificate, everything that you have to prove that is before that. Number one. Number 2, you must have less than 500. Okay, not 300. You heard me talking about 300. That was not here. That is the second drawers. That's the people who does second draw. So for the first draw, and you can have more than 300, but less than 500. And the first, now they made it clear. If you are sole proprietors, independent contractors, eligible self-employed individuals, and not-for-profits, includes church, you can do it. You can do it now. And one was asking me, what do you mean by eligible self-employed individuals? What do you mean by that? So I'm thinking of statutory employees in my mind. So those life insurance agents. I don't know how your life goes in pandemic years. Maybe a lot of people buying life insurance, or maybe not. I don't know. But if your business had an issue, and even though you got W-2, you actually belongs to self-employment individuals. So that word, eligible self-employed individuals, I would interpret that into the statutory employees. And then it says, for the first draw of PPP, and if you are NAICS code 72, and that is great, and you have a fewer than 500 employee per physical location. So important, because if you are as a corporation and your overall employee is 500, then you don't qualify. But what if you have all these little locations, they only have 10 people on each location? Then you qualify. Okay, so that's a NAICS code 72, restaurant and hotels. And also 501c6 people, they were not eligible, now they are. And also, and those news organizations that are majority owned or controlled by a NAICS code 511, okay, or not-for-profit public broadcasting entities with a trade or business under NAICS code of that. The size limit for the category is no more than 500 employees. So this is talk about the news organization, the newspaper people. I immediately thought about in town we have, and we have this business record who is a newspaper organization, and we also have, I also in Minneapolis, where our branches at, in Bloomington, we have Mon Today or Mon Time. I forgot the name, but those are newspapers, and they should be looking into that they're available for the first draw. Okay, and then of course the PPP applicants must submit documents sufficient to establish eligibility and to demonstrate the qualifying payroll amount, which may include applicable payroll records, payroll tax filing, 1099 miscellaneous form, 1040 Schedule C, and F for farmers, and the income and expenses from sole proprietorship bank records. So what they're saying is that you need to be eligible just like before. When folks are applying for the CARES Act PPP, that's what they had all these documents put together. So they're saying that if you are first drawer, and then you need to go by that. So these are the people eligible, and included a new company in 2020 if you formed it before February the 15th. Okay, and so that when they mentioned about eligibility, they didn't say 2019. They said what you have, so that's 2020. Okay, folks. So the takeaway on this first one, on this first part of the PPP for this bill, and I don't, I think it's called Economic Relief Bill. I don't even know the name of the bill anymore because they had so many names, so I got really confused. Just this one. This bill for PPP has two parts. It's a first draw or second draw. Right now, let's talk about second. So if you never did PPP before, you belong to the first drawer of PPP, and eligibility already covered. And then the second one, eligibility. Okay, let's read it. So you must have fewer than 300 employees. See here, it doesn't have 500 anymore. So the one who already got a PPP and need it again, you are doing the second draw. If you do that, and you need to make sure that you have less than 300 employees. Also, you can get your second PPP only if you spent your first PPP, which is the one that you got before August 8, 2020. Okay, you must finish spending it, or you know you will be using it up because there's 24 weeks. So if you got it, say in August, then you will take about what? About 6 months to use it up. So you may be still using it, but you must have the plan to use it up in order to apply for the second PPP. And the gross receipts must have declined by 25% or more in any quarter of 2020 compared to 2019. Okay, so I again tell folks that not any 3 months, it is the quarter months. So it is quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. You can only combine the month by the quarters and don't pick month out of the year goes, oh yeah, I have the 3 months, which is really bad. No, it doesn't work that way. It's by quarter. And the gross receipt excludes funds from the first round, the PPP you got before August 1st. So don't add it. Don't add the money in there as your income. Don't add loans. Don't add grants. Did you hear me? Grants. So if you got grants, take that out. Okay, so that is how you calculate gross receipts. Now, I want to give you the definition of gross receipts. So this is in the interim rule. It is exactly how it's worded. It says gross receipts to include all revenue in whatever form received or accrued in according to entities accounting method from whatever sources, including the sales of product, sales of service, interest income, dividend income, rent income, royalty income, fees collected, or commission income, and reduced by returns and allowance. That is something really accounting. So who is going to have allowance? So let me give you an example. If you are in a construction company and you provide construction service, then after you finish, you give 2 years warranty. So these warranty are allowance because you did not make the 100% income yet until your warranty is expired. Otherwise, your client could come back, demand money back. Am I right? So if your accounting method is right, and you can calculate allowance, that is so reasonable. That is so good. That is a real accountant is advising government to calculate gross receipts. Okay, I'm pretty proud of the interim final rule when I read that. Forgiven first draw PPP loan are not included in gross receipts. So that just, again, tell you that don't add in your PPP amount. The qualified business can be corporation, LLC, sole proprietor, self-employed, and an independent contractor. All right, if I just gonna compare this one to my last one, I want you to look. And it didn't have eligible self-employed individual. Okay, I'm just taking the words out of the interim rules. So I don't know what that means. Maybe it is needed clarification, but here it says self-employed and independent contractors. So the maximum on the first PPP is 10 million, which means the first time when we applied for PPP back in 2020, some company got 10 million, folks. And I know most of my client gets what? Around 20,000. So, or 10,000. So we have company getting 10 millions. Boy, that's a lot of money. And the maximum, this one, the second draw of PPP, this one I'm talking about, this one is only 2 million maximum. You can go up more. So if you use that, divided into the 284 billion, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe we can get more people into, more people apply, right? Because it is a smaller amount. And also, so this is the second draw of PPP eligibility. And in this particular bill, it did say that they are prioritizing underserved communities. So there is total of 35 billion. You see, there's a 15 billion for the first draw. Okay, the 25 billion for the second draw. And they are going to, that's why I was showing you those, the 3 pages SBA guidance. Those are more written for the lenders and are more written to themselves how to connect with lenders who are connected with underserved communities. So those are the loans that it will be there. It is part of the 284 billion though. It is not in addition to. So, but hopefully with this guidance, a lot of small underserved communities, when they need to clean up their accountant need time to do that, then the funding can be there waiting for them. So that is really, it's good to see it, better than not having it. But how that really mechanically help us, I do not know. So that this new PPP, this new bill, PPP closed at the end of March, folks. So we only have between now to the end of March. Now, how much can you get from this bill, from this second time of PPP? Okay, and we covered the first draw, the second draw, and they are the math calculation in terms of the dollar amount is here. So if you are in hotel and the food services, you use your average monthly payroll times 3.5. Otherwise, it's like before, you times 2.5. Okay, when we talk about monthly average payroll cost, folks, remember that is not just the gross payroll of your employee. That includes your 401k contribution, includes your medical premium that you are paying for the employee, and also includes the state taxes and the state unemployment taxes that you're paying. So all the employer related payroll costs are part of the payroll cost. And so I have seen lender allow the small business to add the half of the Social Security Medicare as a payroll cost, because that is an employer cost. But I have also seen lenders do not allow that. So within those rules, you will come across lenders who does it, and you will come across lenders who just do not allow you to do. But if you are already with this lender, they're willing to work your case, I would go, of course, the more the better, but I will focus on getting it. So, by saying that, I want you to realize that it's not a cookie cutter, really. It is not so scientifically defined. So wherever you go, you get the same dollar amount. Absolutely not the case, and depends on the lender. So now let's also see that what else is in there other than 3.5 and other than NAIC code of 72. So we also want to mention to you is the other key things to remember. You remember on the first draw, the people who didn't get PPP, they did the first draw. But when they do that, they don't have 2019 payroll, right? So the interim rule also allows you to use the whole year number divided by 12. So sole proprietors, come on, we don't run payrolls every month, and we probably don't even know how much money we made until the end of the year, right? So if that's the case, you use what you have right now for the year to come up with your average monthly income. So folks, 2020 tax return is not due until April. So you should anyway come up with your net profit. So I would encourage you, get your accounting done, know how much money you made, then you fill up your first draw and you get paid. Okay, you get that PPP. Now, let's talk about what is all included in the cost that can be forgiven. So this is really important because back in March 2020, when this PPP just came around, I literally had a client and I already got the PPP applied for him. He already got funded, and he was like really mad because he said, why are you doing this? Because I don't want to have a loan and I'm not going to be able to have the accounting to be forgiven. So I'm too scared. I don't want it. And then, of course, he doesn't know that this money is not for cigarette or coffee. It's actually for payroll. So if he runs his payroll, then he will use it. So those are the things folks are really worried, not sure whether they can deduct it or not. So here, let me give you a rundown of what can be deducted, what kind of cost you use use the PPP money for these items, you will be forgiven. You don't have to worry about making it a loan. So number one, payroll, rent, and also covered mortgage interest and utilities. And on top of that, this new bill expanded, saying that, whoa, that's not enough. Let's do more. So what they say is covered worker protection and the family facility modification expenditure. So when they say covered, and my understanding of that word means the covered is the company covered, the employer paid workers protection. So for example, if you are making all of the employee to spend their own money to buy face mask, then you cannot deduct face mask, right? So you must be paying for it in order it to deduct. So that would include, and here it says personal protective equipment and also the modification expenditures. So some folks was asking me, give me an example of modification. Of course I have an example. And if you come to my office in Des Moines, you will actually, if you go to our office in Iowa City and Bloomington, do the same thing, because we built a fiberglass barrier between you and our staff. So when we talk to you, even if our nose are together, it's actually cut in between with a very thick fiberglass. So we were trying to keep people safe. And so we actually did that modification and bought the things and, put it on. And professional office, so I cannot put it on really badly. So it need to be pretty. So I spend money for that. Those are the money that can be covered by PPP. And of course, their property damage cost. And, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis area, their companies got looted, and the protesters destroyed things, like how they do it to the Capitol. So if you are not reimbursed by the insurance, there you go. If you have expenses that the insurance didn't give you because you didn't cover it, or the insurance has a limitation, and then you should be using that to cover. Okay. And then expenditure to suppliers that are essential at the time of purchase to the recipient's current operation. So what are they? If it is a restaurant, what is essential for your purchase? Food, supplies. So come on, inventory, cost of goods sold. So what are you talking about? So you will be able to be forgiven. And now, and of course, you need to remember this key ratio, right? So the PPP money you got, 60% minimum has to be on payroll. Then 40% can be do all these stuff I was talking about. Okay. All right. So the other things I want to talk about is simplified forgiveness. Simplified forgiveness, folks. And this applies to the past, applies to the future. So if your PPP amount you got in 2020 was less than 150,000, if you haven't applied for forgiveness, sit tight and don't do anything and just wait for that one pager to come out. You sign, it's done. But of course, it is easy for me to say that. And they do make sure to mention that you alone is responsible for truth, nothing but the truth on that piece of paper. So it is my experience. Whenever there is a federal government assistance coming in, and follow that is always federal compliance review. And I don't know about the US. I already knew about Canada. You know, I'm from Canada, so I have relatives in Canada, so I know what's going on there in Canada. And they also have programs like this for business. And you guess what? 100% of them are being audited and compliant. And 90% of them do not qualify. Can you imagine? Can you imagine you are in that boat and getting reviewed and you couldn't pass? So the money you thought was free is not free. Now you have to pay it back. And now you wish that you didn't get it because you spent it a little too generously. So those are the things you need to consider. You need to consider, and I would recommend, if you ask me, hey Ying, and I can sign this piece of paper. I don't really need to do anything, right? I just, it is simplified after all. And if you ask me, I always say that you have to have your ducks in the row, and even if you don't need to walk them out to the pound, you at least have a picture of them together. So that way you can prove that 5 years later they come back. Yes, they have that many, actually 4 years. Did you see that last paragraph? Borrowers are required to retain relevant records related to employment for 4 years and other records for 3 years, as SBA may review and audit these loans to check for fraud. And they're not saying check for mistakes. There's no mistakes. It is just fraud. Okay. So with that, I say, even though it is simplified, it is just alleviating the pressure for you so that you can get that forgiven, so you can get into your second draw, or you are just so sick with COVID virus and you don't have to do this right now. You can do it later, but it did not take you away from that responsibility. So you have that responsibility to make sure you are okay with your forgiveness application. All right. So this is my last slides for now. I see 4 questions on questions and answers. I will go there, but just like quickly summary it up. Okay, so forget about what happened in 2020. So right now we're in 2021. We got this bill came out and says that if you never got PPP, you go for first draw. And if you got PPP before and you spend it and you are going to spend it, it is okay, then you can get second draw of PPP. That's it. So you need to know which way you go. And then we also talked about Monday is the day, folks. Monday. And know your small business, your small banks, and figure out where they are and get to them, because those large national banks, they got too much money in their asset. They don't belong to those ones who are open right now. And we don't know how long they're open, because the interim rule says that Monday and Tuesday is for the first draw for the people who had never got PPP. And then starting from Wednesday, the 13th, they say that it's a second draw. It's for people got PPP before, but it's still with the small banks. So interim rule says they don't know when the big bank's going to come on board. Maybe by then, the $284 billion is gone. I don't know. And nobody told me that the first round of PPP going to go out like this. And, I haven't even blinked. It's all gone. And I have so many applications on my desk. I didn't even submit mine yet. And it's crazy. And I don't want that to repeat. I don't want that to repeat for any of my clients on my book. So you are here. If you're not my client, you can become one. But if you are already one, you will not be left behind. And we are the true people. We're the people truly believe leave nobody behind. Okay. So here, I want you to work on the bank and go make a contact. And, if you're brave enough and wear your face mask, walk into the bank. If you want to be on the phone, but do whatever you can, please get in contact with the bank and small bank. Okay. And then make sure that you got your books and record in place. So when the banks ask for things, you don't go, oh, well, I have to go back to my bookkeepers, figure that out. No, you need to get that ready right now. Okay. And if you have already applied for PPP forgiveness, that's fine. And the new amendment also said that the EIDL loan grant is actually free. So the one that you owe, like some $10,000 and $5,000, those are folks, I know a lot of them. And don't worry about it. Leave it alone because the bank will come back to correct it for you. Okay, you don't need to spend your energy on that one. You need to spend your energy on calculating whether you are eligible for second draw or not. And if you are not eligible for second draw, folks, I have something for you. And I congratulate you because you can get through pandemic without losing that much sales. You are genius. You are made for business. Okay. So I congratulate you and I give you one more things to think about. And you will get money from the help from the government program. It's called ERC credit. And you will get it. And I know I haven't rolled it out yet. I plan to talk about ERC credit on Tuesday, my time at 3 o'clock. I just have 30 minutes there, but I will call it Do It Yourself ERC because I want you to learn how to do the other credit. That is a huge credit. For one of my clients, you know how much that is? That's $80,000 they're getting back. So it is not a small credit. It is a big one, and it is one that more designed for business with a little bit of size. So proprietary doesn't apply, but has to be the businesses that with employees on the book. Whether the employee is yourself or not, it doesn't matter as long as you have employees. Okay, so I will cover that. So other than just congratulate you for making it, and I tell you that there's still more help on the way. There's still more program you can tap into, and you don't have to be sorry about PPP2 that you don't qualify because you work your butt off, and now it's like what you make is much less than what they're giving out on PPP2. That's fine. And working is good for us. We want to be working hard, right? So community CPA don't qualify either. So I'm congratulating myself as well. Okay. All right. So I said that you are responsible for your own survival, not others, and be responsible and learn as much as you can and find help. And the help is us. If you need us, you find us. And we're on Zoom. We're on YouTube. We have our website. And subscribe and thumb up on my video and just give me some encouragement because I don't see you. And even if you're sitting there goes, oh yeah, I really like your talk, but I don't know. So I need to know that. The way to know that is to send that message to YouTube. And that will really help me to feel good, continue doing what I'm doing, and really help the community to spread the knowledge that much needed for every businesses. All right. I will talk to you again and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.